All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 5th Annual HVAC Training Symposium. My name is Ben, and with me today is Mr.
Brian Feenie.
So this is a strange term to put before HVAC, full stack HVAC. And actually, we're going to have somebody else that's going to join us here. And so this is the great Shelby Breger. She's just going to throw on her headphones, but Shelby is with Conduit. She is hot off of her booth, and she has joined us live here to be able to also talk about this topic here. So
we'll see how sunburned I am live. Oh yeah, I got some color today.
That camera's like saturating your face a lot though. Too,
good.
So
amazing. That's what I look for.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. It's we're all here because, well, we really believe in the community, but we also are connected with Jim with MeasureQuick, and so maybe we'll just explain a little bit about what we each do with MeasureQuick. So I have a background with Haven on the IoT side, on the air quality side, but also in the kind of marketing, market research, and a little bit of a training side as well, and I am really interested in kind of social systems and classification systems for like to be able to help our understanding of the world around us. And with my IT background, I have a huge amount of experience with evaluating and working with various different pieces of software. So that's kind of led to this concept of full stack HVAC, but I'm not going to get into that yet because I want our other folks here to introduce themselves and explain a little bit about what they do.
So thanks, Ben. I specialize in onboarding, customer success, and implementation. I have 3 core principles that I bring to the table, which are accountability, change management, and execution. I'm typically connected to the space of IoT and software as a service, and usually the challenges that exist are being able to actually do it. How do I implement it? How do I get my team to want to do it? And I work with different companies like MeasureQuick and some others that are looking for ways to scale their products in the marketplace. And then also the big connection there is how to help the contractors and the technicians get comfortable and understanding why they should do it, why it's important for the company, why it's important for the customer. And it's one of the biggest challenges companies face today is being able to do it. And so that's where I specialize and help the community, and being an event like this really helps me connect with a lot of folks that want to do the right thing and move the industry forward. And that's what I'm passionate about.
Thanks, Brian.
Awesome. Well, I'm Shelby. I'm one of the co-founders of Conduit Tech, where we are passionate about building tools similarly to the team at MeasureQuick, building tools to help contractors succeed with high quality work. Both use that as a design and sales tool, right? When you are doing high quality work, you build that value in front of your customer. And that's what we fundamentally believe. And that is very aligned with everything that MeasureQuick does. So we are friends of MeasureQuick, friends of Brian Feenie, and we're happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And to provide a little bit more context around this whole full stack HVAC idea is working with Jim, working with Haven, and watching the HVAC industry, especially residential HVAC companies, struggle with trying to adopt new technology is really the inspiration as to why a full stack HVAC exists. My background, I've worked with a lot of different software implementation for all different types of industries. And there's a word for that called digital transformation, where it is you're taking an industry, a company that is traditionally either analog or inefficient. They use a lot of, either processes that are not kind of tracked, where there's kind of data all along the way. And then you just kind of go through this, this adoption of the software, of various different types of software, to be able to go from often very inefficient to being, fairly efficient with those tools. And so what I've also noticed in the world of residential HVAC is that there's a lot of innovation happening right now. And like, Haven IQ is a young company. A lot of the people are not from the HVAC world, but they have a lot of experience in product development and in software and IoT systems. And they brought a lot of those technologies into the HVAC space. Shelby is from, she has a background with McKinsey, right? Which is a consulting company. And so she's done digital transformation projects. And so she knows like some of the ins and outs about, I guess, implementation of software for various companies to help them to become more efficient. And so that's how Shelby and I kind of started talking about, it's just like, okay, there's an opportunity here because we do have shared interests for MeasureQuick, for Conduit, and then with Brian for all the other kind of services that you're starting to represent with your Shift Logic kind of sales organization. Is that there's kind of a fundamental problem with HVAC companies. The leaders, the business leaders within HVAC companies, don't have IT background, and they don't know how to kind of manage the implementation of software. So a really good example is like fleet management software. There's a lot of options out there now, and some of them you can self onboard with. Now that's not the case for all fleet management software. Like even something like Service Titan, they won't even talk to you unless you're above a certain size. And then even at that point, when you are working with them, they kind of have to hold your hand because there is a lot of different pieces for you to be successful with that software. They have to hold your hand through it. They have to basically collect a lot of data from you. They have to train your staff on how to use it. And so that is oftentimes a big part of digital transformation. And now digital transformation for the sake of digital transformation, just for becoming a little bit more, let's say, efficient, eking out a little bit more profits, that's actually not what I'm interested in. For me, I'm really interested in kind of helping HVAC contractors get to the next level for their ethical practices. Because what I've seen with working with building science contractors and contractors trying to implement indoor air quality solutions and, like, let's say, monitoring solutions, because of all those barriers to entry, they are very inefficient in the work that they do. They are not able to kind of do really effective, let's say, building science and really effective management of their business at the same time, from what I've noticed, especially for small companies. And so the hypothesis, because Shelby and I presented on this a couple of weeks ago on the Green Home Institute channel, you can go see that in full. Today, we're just kind of doing a short digest version of it. But what we're trying to promote here is that a lot of the values that are promoted, that are kind of talked about here at the HVAC Symposium, it's always about, like, you're learning a new thing. You're like, this is new technical skill that you have to adopt, maybe a new piece of software, a new piece of technology that you're going to be, adding to your repertoire. And it just keeps piling up and piling up. Yet there's all of this work that you still have to do, which is all this manual labor, all of this kind of messy management of these projects that you're working with. And so that's what Full Stack HVAC is about building the framework for being able to navigate all of the pieces required to make your business very efficient, so you can do ethical work that is kind of at the highest caliber for your customers. So Full Stack HVAC kind of takes what we've done is we've looked at the various different functional pieces of work that need to get done within an HVAC business. And then we've matched them with some of the new pieces of software, the new categories of software that are emerging within the world of residential HVAC. And so, as you can see there on the side, there are 7 categories that we have that right now, that's just the 7 that are emerging, that are easy to kind of cluster together. But, moving forward, there might even be more added to it. But the whole point is to make it really clear that that if you're trying to be more efficient in the work that you're doing, it's not just having, fleet management software and then you're going to get Conduit. It's that there's these pieces that data should be flowing from all the way from the top to the bottom of this stack to make sure that you have as efficient of a system as possible. So did you guys want to, sorry, I was monologuing a little bit.
When you look at the solutions that are out there, and and you and I were ideating on full stack early on, it was very much about all these great emerging technologies, but then how do we get it done, right? And I've met plenty of contractors in my career that they have best intentions. They say, yeah, we're going to do it. And I see them a year later and they can't do it, or they didn't do it. I say, what happened? And it's like, well, my guys just don't want to do it. I have resistance internally. And there's a lot of, there's a critical piece to full stack HVAC that is the implementation part, because we can put all the great technologies together, but then what? And that's the beauty of full stack HVAC that we're building, is that we have the tools, the resources, the people to help and get that implemented, right? Whether it's sales coaching, whether it's implementation, or training the technicians to understand why they should do it, why it's important, helping the technology brands to connect the dots and get to the customer with the right value, and really drive this industry forward. I mean, the folks I've been talking to this week, they have the hunger, they have the desire to want to do it, and to ask them to just take that heavy bag of tricks back home and just say, well, just go do it. Just go do it. It'll be
so easy.
It's going to work. You're going to do a great job, and call me if you need me. Well, that's the wrong way to do it, but it's how it's been done for a long time. And, the beauty of an event like this, everyone is sharing, everyone wants to help each other, collaborate. You don't see that at a typical conference by any means. I was explaining this event to my wife, and the easiest way to summarize this is like the Hollywood star version of an HVAC conference. All the biggest and best folks in the industry are here. It's amazing. There's a lot of inspiration. And inspiration drives the want to do the work to put these things in place. Because there's a lot to take in, like you said, Ben, and everyone's got the best intentions. And what I will say, when you look at full stack HVAC and the different aspects of it, don't feel that you have to drink through the fire hose. You can take these things in steps. I would look at what's the lightest lift. Where can you get the easiest buy-in from your company and your team? Because it's not just at the leadership level, it actually affects everyone in the business. Every piece of full stack HVAC includes the CSRs, the owner, the technician, the service manager, the install manager, the homeowner. The homeowner is the one we have to keep happy. So full stack HVAC actually has to align with the homeowner wants and needs. So we have to make sure that we're doing that. And that's our vision and our plan with full stack HVAC, is to make sure that we are not leaving any stone unturned, to make sure that, when you do put the work in, and I will stress that, put it in bold, put the work in, you're going to get, to where I feel is the best part of the industry.
I think that's definitely true. And I think there's a couple things that ring true. One is that even it's not just HVAC that faces this problem. When I was in consulting, God, that's a time that I've blacked out of my memory, but it was a time where I once led the design of an implementation project. And it was the first time that I actually came back for an implementation. This is a big Fortune 500 company. I came back and nothing was done between the 6 weeks that I left. And then I came back and I was like, what is going on here? And it's every company faces this challenge. And I think in an HVAC business, there's so much firefighting on a day-to-day basis that it can be hard to pick your heads up and be able to feel like, okay, I can dedicate this time. But I think what's really cool, and that's true in any business, that's not specific to HVAC at all. But I think what's really cool is I think in this community, there's a huge amount of problem awareness. And I think what's increasing is the amount of solution awareness, is that people know that these are all problems, whether it be sales and design taking too long, commissioning not going well because there's high callback rates, whatever it is, there is an awareness of the problem. And I think that is really cool to see and hear it talked about in this symposium, and then also hear the openness and excitement for new solutions to come into the space. But you're completely right. The next step is, how do we actually implement it? And I think that's the most important part. And it's one of the things that as technology companies come together, and this is something that we've been so privileged to learn from the MeasureQuick team specifically, but also from Smart AC and a handful of other folks, is just how do you think about implementing and supporting the teams that we work with to be successful, and saying, hey, we've seen this work X, Y is at hundreds of other companies. Here's how we can take this same processes for implementation and replicate them for you, because that's what we've seen work and be successful. And I think it's been really cool to see not only this solution awareness emerge, but at the same time, collaboration among the technology players there to try and support our users and our teams who are trying to figure out, how do I implement when it is constantly changing? It is super busy every day.
Yeah. And so to me, that kind of the first step was the language of being able to have that type of, the classification of the work that's being done, because I haven't seen that before in the world of residential HVAC. So if somebody has actually seen something like this, of the let's say breakdown of various different types of software providers in this space, I'd love to see it. I just haven't seen it before. And so that's why we're like, okay, well, we're just going to start playing around with this language. We're going to start trying to test to see if this resonates. And so that's kind of like we're still in this early stage of testing the market to see if this is something that, as we explain it to other HVAC contractors, especially small HVAC contractors, because that's where I think a simplified framework is really important and necessary, is to be able to show people that it's like, instead of it being like I need to stress myself over looking at every piece of software and I don't know what each one of them is capable of doing, I first approach it from that type of the problem standpoint, kind of the functional standpoint, about stepping back, looking at my business and just thinking about, like, if I'm a small business owner, like, where am I bleeding out? Am I bleeding out? Is it my sales process that's chaotic? Is it the fact that I don't have any, like, I'm not using any Bluetooth tools, and then thus I'm just like pencil whipping things? It's taking a lot of time. I don't actually know what I'm troubleshooting, or my techs don't know what they're trying to fix. Is it that you always get stuck at the design phase of a system, and so then you just kind of eyeball it or use a rule of thumb? Because all the friction that it takes to try to find solutions in those categories, when you have those problems but you don't have experience in kind of the software side and understanding what's available in this turbulent market of all of this new innovation, then you just kind of look at some of those innovations. You might pick up and start using MeasureQuick, and you think that MeasureQuick is like, it's supposed to be just this diagnostic tool for techs, but it's designed to be a commissioning tool that has a very different business purpose. But going into it, unless you knew that it had a different role in your business, then you kind of would be ignorant, and no fault on you, because this is just also new on both sides, as a business owner with no IT experience, but also as just because all of this is emerging all at once right now.
You bring up a great point there, and I think the other piece to be considered is, I've got friends in this industry that have been through 3 CRMs in 5 years. That's pretty alarming.
That's a lot of wasted money.
It is a lot of wasted money. And I think what's happened in our industry up until this point is companies fail to really help the customer, the contractor, who's the customer, understand the value all the way through the chain of why they're doing what they're doing. If you buy a field service management platform, you really need to understand the value of, it's more than a dispatch tool, right? It's more than a marketing tool. It's more than, what a lot of them do. It's actually, what does it do for your customer? Does it delight your customer and make that connection with them meaningful and a lifetime relationship? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And when I look at full stack HVAC and the technologies that we feel fit the mold for that, it's all about driving value to the end customer.
Mm-hmm. Ethical value.
Ethical value. To your point earlier about the ethical side of this, it's not, snake oil is not going to cut it. The shiny new toy, the contractors today, the business owners today see right through the shiny new toy. If it cannot bring value, it's not worth looking at. And so I think a lot of companies that are coming into the space or technology solutions that are coming into the space really need to think really hard about what that value chain looks like. What are the value drivers and how they getting all the way through the organization? Because there's value internally as well. What's the value of using software X and using software Y? Like, why should I care? Why should I do this? And I think that's the utmost part of how we accomplish this movement, making the industry better and helping contractors win and prosper. I mean, that's our goal, right? That's why we're doing it. But there's key pieces that have to be there.
And it's one of the things I struggle with, because I'm not really like, there's a lot of people that I know here who put their kind of, I guess, their values, their morals, their ethics before making money. So like, these are a lot of the people that attend this conference. They're the types that would, even if the customer's saying, hey, there's this really, I heard about this Remy Halo or this product that is supposed to magically clean my air. And then the contractor would say, like, most of these contractors here, they would stop and they would say, like, that sounds interesting. I haven't seen the actual studies that prove that that works or not. So like, I can't tell you. I cannot take a stance morally or ethically on whether or not I should like sell that to you. So I need to at least let you know about that. And then like, I'm not going to stop you from making a decision, but they will make the decision to forego certain like monetary rewards in exchange for ethical outcomes, because it's like, there was another, like in Joe's presentation this morning, he was talking about how an HVAC, it was a quote by, I think it was Bud Offerman, who talked like, he's a legendary IAQ researcher who kind of coined the phrase that the HVAC contractor actually has a much higher impact on somebody's health than their doctor does. Like, think about the gravity of that. In our society, we believe that our doctors are kind of the ones keeping us healthy. But like, if your HVAC contractor is not providing ethical solutions for your home, and they're not checking for moisture, they don't observe that it's just like, oh, you're just hacking cough all the time, and the homeowner is just like, yeah, as soon as I moved into this home, I'm pretty much bedridden. It's an ongoing discussion about like, what is the extent in which an HVAC contractor should be how much responsibility they should be taking. But in general, the outcomes that we're looking for are aligned with this community, where we're not promoting this for the sake of profit. Is that if for somebody to really actually get involved, like to get access to the full stack HVAC resources, which we're kind of setting up right now, they need to sign the Better HVAC pledge. And so that we're talking about Better HVAC later today in a couple of hours on a different live stream. But it's just codifying the values of this community, where it is more about people before profits. And so, but the problem is that a lot of the people here that are very good at that, then just, they're not very good at the profits part. And so then thus they can't be effective. And so that's really my argument, is that to kind of, again, to implement building science at scale and to have time for all of the good work that needs to get done for all the homeowners that need it, all of you ethical contractors out there need to get better at doing all of these other pieces of work. And that's where, like, coming from a software background of understanding kind of the exponential nature of these platforms, that if you just are equipped with understanding how to navigate them, then you can kind of get the best of both worlds. That's our hypothesis.
I think the two very much go hand in hand. And I think everyone I've met, at least in this industry, is very committed to doing right by their customer. That is a consistent goal. And so I do think that profit and people go hand in hand. It's the best people are committed to providing the best work. And I would say that's every contractor I've ever met. And then on top of that, they get to see enhanced profits because they're retaining their team members. They are equipping their team members with all the tools and technology they need. And by not seeing huge amounts of turnovers, by keeping their well-trained labor force, and by helping serve their customers in a positive and great way, in a tech-enabled way, they're seeing the returns to all of that. And it's so cool to be here because there are a handful of really successful and large businesses here as well who have been able to pave the way and show like this is how we can have a really incredible company building off of these features and these pieces. And I think that's everybody here is here to grow and to learn and to drive quality, and also is very open to using tech to do that. And I think that it's exciting to see that there are models increasingly out there that bring all of them together. And so I'm really excited for this next generation of contractors, many of who are here, who are taking this by taking it and running with it and saying, this is the different types of tools and tech that I can give my technicians, that I can give my service manager, I can give my sales team to really support our customers in the best way. And then also drive the quality results that are going to keep our callbacks low, keep our expenses low, and then also drive revenue because we are serving our customers and our customers see that, and that drives conversion.
If I could add to that, one little nugget of thought is, if you're listening to this and you're an owner of a company or a manager of a team, you need to start thinking about if there's resistance to this effort, you might have to make some tough decisions on how you're staffing your organization. And that's the most fearful thing. We hear in a lot of these breakout sessions about the technician shortage, skilled labor gap. Technology is here to serve the skilled labor gap, I believe. I believe it can bring in greener or lesser skilled technicians, giving them the proper tools to excel and to develop quickly and have, speed to development. But the other issue is you might have to get rid of some people in your company that don't want to go along for the ride. And that's the biggest challenge that I heard it this week. I've heard it for the last, 15 years at least. I've been in this 30, but the last 15 years being connected to some of the, IoT and such, is when you're getting resistance to the change of, well, I got old school guys, nobody wants to do it. I'm like, well, maybe they don't work for you anymore because you can't not go this direction. And, my words of encouragement are, you have a choice to make. You either embrace the technology in front of you that's coming, because it's not going to stop. So if you want to do things the old way, it's probably not going to work out too well. And I'm not trying to inflict fear, but it's the reality of the situation.
And I do want to kind of add maybe a little bit more of a positive spin on that too. In starting with something that maybe sounds a little bit more negative, but this is where like all the larger companies that might be I guess giving you a run for your money in your current market, they are implementing tools like these, just oftentimes different tools at a bigger scale. And so the whole point of what we're trying to do with Better HVAC is to build up the resources and the guides and maybe even the implementation support, so that smaller companies then have access to that same kind of toolbox of all these different pieces of software. Like that's, with Conduit's a great example of this, in that what you're building is something that is basically you're democratizing the design process so that you can get really good designs without needing to have one or two expert designers with expert design software in your company. It now becomes something that is accessible to every HVAC company if they decide to adopt it. And that's another role of technology, Brian, is to try to eliminate some of that pain, that friction in adoption. And I think that over time, the software will just keep getting better and better to the point where the pain won't be as bad, and the process of adopting these new technologies, it'll just end up being there'll be a lot less friction.
And Shelby and I were talking about this yesterday. When you look at Conduit as an example, when I was running an HVAC business, even when I was selling in the field, I would only do a load calculation when I needed a permit. And that wasn't every single job. just because of how we did work. And why wouldn't you do it all every time? You know, it just, and a lot of companies don't do load calculations, as an example, on every single job that they sell because they're afraid of putting in the work and not getting the sale. Whereas, or they just don't have a good best practice in place because it could be cumbersome, or it's hard to find someone to do them, or I don't understand what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And when you start to simplify and leverage technology, you know, the same thing could be said about MeasureQuick.
Yep.
All we're doing with MeasureQuick is digitizing the checklist in a very, you know, structured way so that you don't miss a beat, and you're able to commission a system and know that it's correct and get the success of less callbacks and happier customers. You know, with Conduit as example, like I'm a big fan, and you know, the reason why is it's because it can be an everyday thing, not an occasional thing.
Yeah.
Like all the technology. Well, I use MeasureQuick sometimes. What does that mean? Like, why wouldn't you use it every day? Because if it does what we know it does, that means you're not doing the right thing. The
Mhm.
other times you're not using it. Like, I don't understand, you know, and I think I've seen that with a lot of different types of software or IoT products where it's an occasional activity versus a standardized activity or part of the DNA of the company. And I think that's what's going to set people apart to really excel and stand out from their competitors. And those that embrace this full stack HVAC type of mentality are going to be the next generation of winners, in my opinion.
I think this is such a good point again about like implementation, which is it's about supporting people through that process so that they can see why it benefits them. It's very daunting. I think about this myself. We introduced some random design software to our team, and I was so resistant. This is for our software engineering process. And I was like, I don't know how to move these boxes. This is a dumb platform. And I was listening to myself and I was like, this is bad. Or I switched brands of computers and I was like, the MacBook is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I'm like 6 months in and I'm finally coming around to it. But it is, I think part of it is patience, but a lot of it is support in that process of actually seeing this is going to work for me. Because there is so much to learn on any one of these platforms to get the maximum value out of it. But ultimately, for all of these solutions, there is a real reason that there are a lot of power users. Every MeasureQuick has super users. Conduit, we have super users. They're using it on every job because they know that it delivers the value, whether it be through reduced callbacks, whether it be through increased sales conversion. Once you start to see those benefits, it becomes very sticky for users. And so it's helping them see them. Becomes the role of managers. It becomes the part of the responsibility of the technology provider themselves.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people can kind of see this clearly, but like to your point on those power users, if when these solutions are in kind of an early stage, you're kind of going to have this adoption curve where the power users oftentimes they fit a very different mold than the majority market, and the like helping people through that process of kind of like, because the majority of the residential HVAC industry, like the amount of them that have IT backgrounds, or they have worked at, let's say, in an office where software is normalized and that's literally all they do is work on pieces of software, like that is a complete flip to what the typical HVAC technician's daily tasks are. And so the amount of support that they need is quite a bit, and it's no fault on kind of, you know, the vocation of being a HVAC technician or even being an HVAC business owner. It's just that it just hasn't been normalized yet. And this is so what we're trying to do with Full Stack HVAC is trying to get the market, trying to help the market go through that type of transition, so that you know, at the end of this, the outcomes are a lot less painful than they are right now. So that's what we're going for. What's going to be available on the website in the short term is like right now, it's just kind of like a sign up express your interest on the page. But very soon we want to be able to provide kind of a series of features, such as being able to offer comparisons. So filling out all these categories with various different pieces of software. You can explore those categories of software. You can explore the pros, the cons. You can compare them to each other. You can identify what it is that kind of fits your business needs. And then from there, you can walk away and just kind of use some of that knowledge that we've shared that hopefully can help you get to the next level. Or when you go to, if you need help, because a lot of companies like that, if you try something yourself, I've worked with a lot of teams and I've done it myself before when trying to adopt new software, is first you think that, oh, I can do it myself. And then like sometimes that works. There are some pieces of software that are intuitive enough that you can just kind of like flow into it, and it's not worth having somebody else help you get through that. But with a lot of these pieces of software, that's not the case. And so that's why, Brian, your approach, Brian, I think is really critical to this, is the kind of holding people's hand through this. And as they encounter that pain and that friction, you can grab them and be like, you know what, you got this. Other people have done this before. And I believe that you can do it too. And so then you help hold their hand through that transition.
Yeah. And I mean, and we've talked about this before, Ben, you and I, when I spend time at Service Titan, and what I would see a lot of when, customers buy it, it's expensive.
Oh yeah.
Right. And when you spend money on something, especially a lot of money on something, your expectation is much higher, because, just even as a consumer, you have a higher expectation the more money you spend. But when you're left to your own devices to implement, and what we've been talking about is, it is not expected then, if you're an HVAC business owner, that you're a tech expert. So when you think about implementing things that are foreign to you and you don't have a ton of support, you're much more susceptible to pushback throughout the organization. I saw that with Sensi Predict years ago when I was at Emerson, where technicians will sabotage any great idea an owner has if they don't want to do it. And it's usually because they don't understand why they're doing it. Mm-hmm. When you have a software platform like Service Titan, did anyone explain to the rest of the company why they're doing it? Are they a part of the onboarding process? They're not. It's left to a champion. Was that champion skilled enough or educated enough to be able to convey that message to the rest of the company, the key stakeholders? And key stakeholders go all the way down to the install tech, the service tech. Can't ignore them. They're one of the most important parts of the machine. If you don't have their buy-in and support, whatever project you try to implement is not going to work.
It's so funny you say that, because one of my favorite things that happens when we do demos of our software to business owners, it's almost always the GM, the business owner, who reaches out to us. But I can tell so much about that team when they bring one of their sales team members on that call. And it makes a huge difference, because not only is that sales team member feel like they're part of the decision, maybe they're not part of the decision at all, but they were there to be a witness to it, to ask their questions, to feel like they were part of it. And typically those managers, I think, are making their teams part of that decision process. And those are some of the most successful users, because even if they don't bring the whole team, there's somebody who's excited about it. Then that spreads the word across that team. And so I think that one thing I love to see is when you have these management teams who are really thinking about their team member to even the technology decision, even if that end decision is going to be, we're doing it either way, there is so much that just, when you bring that person into that process, that there's so much more buy-in. And honestly, it reflects so well on that management team, but it also shows that they respect their team members. They know, hey, you're going to be using this. I want you to use it, but you're also going to be using it. You're part of this too. And I love to see when that happens, because it brings that level of that organization already automatically up. I already know that this is going to be more successful for them.
And to expand on that, that's actually part of our onboarding process now for MeasureQuick, is we are making sure that we have, like, when I meet a new customer, who else needs to know? Who else needs to be involved for this to be successful? I know, but I'm asking them if they know. Is it the service manager? Is it the install manager? Ownership usually will always buy into something that's going to help. My presentation yesterday, they're the dreamer, they're the visionary, or on 2 days ago. But The owner's
What
the
is time?
Yeah, time is
Hmm.
a concept. But the owner of a company is typically the visionary, the dreamer, the cruise director. I'm driving the bus. Here's where we're going. And they have to focus on working on the business. And a lot of times they see it and they go, yeah, we got to do it. Okay, great. But I need to talk to your service manager. I need to talk to your install manager. I need a couple of your key technicians on that call as well for a demo
Who are working in the business.
who are working in the business, because you need alignment. And without alignment, nothing in full stack HVAC is going to work,
Mhm.
right? It just doesn't happen. I've been with too many companies over my career. I mean, I'll just bluntly say it. They suck at doing this stuff. We're here to help. I mean, that's the best part. We're here to help. And that's why I love it so much, because the help is there.
Yep. And so that's what we're trying to do. This is very early on. So what you guys are getting access to right now is a bit of the kind of the emerging of what we're trying to build here. Myself and Shelby, we did a webinar a couple weeks ago on the Green Home Institute YouTube channel. So you guys can go and check that out for like let's say an hour long deep dive into this. It's very information dense, but it's a great reference if you're super nerdy and you want to learn more. But kind of over the next little while, we're going to be kind of creating our resources on the fullstackhvac.com. So you can go there right now. You can express your interest, but be on the lookout for more content. Probably some in conjunction with Measure Quick, some in conjunction with Conduit, yeah, we're looking forward to kind of going on this a bit of a strange journey, because there isn't really a model for this in the residential HVAC world yet.
Nope, first of its kind.
All right, guys, anything else to add to that?
No, good.
No, it's fun to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks. We got a couple good comments in there. Thanks, guys, for adding your thoughts to the stream, and enjoy the rest of the symposium.
Thanks, Ben.